Hello and welcome back. In this video, we're going to talk about images. Make the website just a little bit more interesting by displaying images. So let's get started right away. One thing I'm going to do right off the bat here is I'm in the Explorer here, and I'm going to create a new folder, and let's just call this images. And we're going to put any images that are in project inside this folder. We haven't really created any folders yet, and I just want to kind of show how to do the relative linking when you do that. This will also give us a place to put our images. So one thing we're going to do here, let me go ahead and close that Explorer. Put this back. Maybe I'll make this just a little bit smaller, this a little bigger. Okay, let's find an image. So I'm just going to go to Google, and I searched in Google for cool images, and indeed I found this fist image, which I think is pretty cool. You can do any of these images you want, so I'm going to go ahead and save this image as download, and it's just going to go in my downloads directory. All right, so then what we're going to do, we could just drag and drop that image into the folder we want through our window navigation system on our computer. However, let's go ahead and do it with terminal. I wanted to use a little bit more terminal to make sure that we could do this. So let's just go ahead and figure out where we are. So pwd for print working directory, and we are in the desktop in HTML. Now that is the root directory of our project. So let me go ahead now and just type the word clear, and that will just clear the previous commands out of my terminal. And we're going to use terminal to move that image into our project. So let me show you how to do that. First and foremost, if I just ls space, and then I want to use tilde because that's my home directory. So tilde means your home directory. And then we'll do /downloads and enter. And you can see that I have quite a few files here, but the one I'm interested in is this download.jpg. Okay, so let's go ahead and move this. And what we do to move it was just type mv, so that's move. Okay, and we're gonna move. So we have to put the path. So remember, the path was tilde, and it's in my downloads directory, and it's called download.jpg. Now that's the first parameter. So we put the command, which is mv, and a space, and then our path of the file. And then what we're going to do is put another space, and we're going to tell it where we're moving it to. So in our case, we're going to move it to tilde, which is our home directory, /desktop, which is where we put our project file. And we called it HTML. And then inside there, we just created a directory called images. So we're going to put that in there. And then we're going to go ahead and just push enter. And it went down to the new line. So if I've got my path correct and everything, I should be able to do ls, and then I'm just going to do /images, and I should see now my download is inside that directory. So I'm going to go ahead and minimize that. And if you look in the Explorer and then look in our images, and indeed our download.jpg image is right there inside of there. Again, we could have just drag and drop that, but I wanted to show you in terminal how to move one file to the next. But let's go ahead now and go back to our home page here, and I'm just going to put the image here underneath our h1 or heading 1 tag. So let me I want to get just a little bit more space here, and I'm going to close my Explorer here, and let's just go down. Now an image tag is a little bit different than other tags, because an image tag doesn't actually have, you don't do this with an image tag. And in fact, it got really confused when I tried to do it. You don't have an opening and a closing tag on an image. An image doesn't have anything that it needs inside of there, but everything that an image tag needs is actually done with attributes. And so what we're going to do with the image, let me show you the two attributes that are the most common. So you have just the img, and then we have two attributes, and then we have the closing of that tag. Okay, but we don't have a closing tag, so no less than sign /image. Okay, just get that straight. That is, it's just a tag with no closing tag. Okay, there's a few of those in HTML. because it doesn't need any additional information. But the source is where it's going to be located, and this can also be absolute or relative, just like our links. So what we're going to do here is do a dot slash, and then we're going to do images /download.jpg. Okay. Now the alt tag will give the browser and screen readers more information about what this is. So I'm just going to put some text here. Cool looking image of some fists, something like that. That's a little bit descriptive. Maybe people who are blind and visiting the website would be able to know what this image represented. So I'm going to go ahead now and refresh. And you can see it put my image right here below our heading. Now, depending on the image that you picked, this could be very big, large. I mean, it could take up your whole screen. So let's go ahead and just add, you know what I'm going to do here is I'm going to break this down to a new line like this. And we will tab over here. And I'm going to go ahead and give this some style. And the style we're going to do is just, let's just give it a width of, let's say 200 and, you know what, let's do 175 pixels, colon, and then we're going to do height of auto so that it keeps the same. Now we could choose a height of 175 as well, and it will make a square image, except for it will actually kind of squash this, and it would change the ratio, so the pixel ratio of this, so it would actually look different, look a little squashed. So if I refresh that now, the aspect ratio stays the same because I used height auto, but the width of this now is set to 175 pixels. Okay. The other thing that I want to show you is so that these are actually inline elements by default, but because this is surrounded by two block level elements, it does appear that this takes up 100% of the screen. But if I, in my inspector, if I just hover over that, you can see that it does not, that the size of that is actually 175 by 116.45 pixels. And so, one thing that you could see a lot in newspapers, you would have an image kind of shoved over to the right, and then you would have your text off to the left. So let's do something like that. In this style tag here, and again, you're not going to learn a lot about styling yet, but I'm just going to do a float right. And we'll save that and refresh. And then what you can see happens is it floats this image off to the right here, and then this stuff will kind of wrap around it. And in fact, just to illustrate that a little bit more, let's go back to Cupcake Ipsum. And let's get another 3 paragraphs and make them medium. That's fine. Let's copy that to the clipboard. And I'm going to add one more paragraph tag here underneath these other ones. We'll save that. So it all goes inside that paragraph tag there. And we'll go back to our home page and refresh. And now you can see that my paragraph kind of goes down and wraps around this image. Okay, so the image is kind of taken out of its normal place that it lives on the site, and it floats itself over to the right, and then everything else just kind of works its way around it. Okay, so that's one thing that you'd see that's pretty common with images and text that are together, especially in old like magazine articles and things like that. You would see this quite often. So I think that's all I kind of want to show you right now about images, and we went a little bit further into styling than I wanted to. Don't worry if you don't understand what this styling does right now. We're going to go over way more of that in the CSS chapter next, but I did want to just kind of show you what happens or what is possible with these images. Now you could also change this to left. You could float this left, and it would do the same thing where the image would be off to the left, and then the text would start to the right of that, and then as soon as it had enough room, the text would go back here. Now notice that this text is like shoved all the way up against here. One thing that we could do here is we could do a margin right, and we could tell this to give it a good 10 pixels of space, and we could also do maybe a margin bottom, And don't worry if you don't understand this. I'll show you what it does. This is just, we're just playing around right now. So I'm going to go ahead and refresh that. And what that does now is it gives me a little bit of space here between the right side of this. You can see that now there's 10 pixels of space between here and here, and that is called margin. When you're given space between one element and another, that is called margin. And we're going to go way over that in a further chapter up. But just for now, just to make that look a little nicer, I kind of show you that. And you can play around with this and mess around if you want, but this is how an image works. Basically, the thing that you need to understand the most about an image tag is that it needs a source attribute, okay? And it doesn't have a closing tag. And the source attribute will be an absolute or a relative path to the file that you're in now. We chose to use a relative path, so if I open my Explorer, we used /, which means the current directory that my file is in. So we're in the index, and then we did a /images. So now it's going to look in that directory for an images folder. And yep, it found one. And then it's going to do this and show download. Now, if I misspelled this, let's say, or I put the wrong, I have an extra S here or something, and I refresh, well, then what happens is we get this little missing image thing here, and it doesn't look very good at all. So if that's happening to you, you probably have your path wrong, or you have the wrong spelling of your image. So go ahead and double check all of that, make sure that the spelling and the path is correct, and your image should display there. So let me close that Explorer here, and I'm going to expand this out just so you can see a little bit more of this on the screen and how this is working, but mainly this image tag right here. Now, we did add these styles and we don't need those, but I added those just to kind of show what's possible, some of the things you can do with an image. We're going to go over more styling of images later, but yeah, this is how that works. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. I think we're just going to have a couple more videos here, and the next one that we're going to talk about in the HTML is forms. So forms are very important, and you'll see them all the time on websites where you go and you fill out a form, and then you click save or submit or something like that, and then it does something. So we're going to show how to build the HTML part of the form out, and then I think that'll be the rest of the content that we'll cover. And then I'll do a quick video as a recap and show you where you can go to learn more about HTML and give you just a little bit of homework to work on. And then we're going to get started on our next chapter, chapter 2, which will be CSS. And CSS is all about styling our website. So I hope you're enjoying this, and I will see you in the next video.